All right, I want to welcome you to our second video on how to get your church online with online streaming. And again, our hearts and prayers are going out to those that are suffering during the pandemic time. A couple of things that you need to be aware of is that as a church, you have a number of different options. We touched on some of those in our first video, which is choosing to use an iPhone or an Android device and to put yourself online either on Facebook or YouTube. However, the limitation of that platform is that you have to hold it or set it up, and also in the end, it will make a less conducive option for making your live streams a little bit more smooth. All right. So what we're going to talk about today are the three things that you need to use your computer. This can be a laptop or your desktop to set up kind of a broadcasting studio, somewhat rudimentary, but it'll get the job done. As you're seeing, I'm recording on one of these right now. And when you go through this process from beginning to end, you can be online with Facebook or YouTube very, very quickly. I know that a lot of larger churches may want to look at other options. You could look at live stream, $99 a month. Just kind of keep that fee in mind. DAcast starts at $19 a month and goes up from there depending on your bandwidth usage. Sermoncast is free up to 2 gigabytes of storage, but does climb to $15 and upwards to $100 a month depending on how much you use in storage and bandwidth. Boxcast, which a lot of churches are looking into and seeing this as an excellent platform, starts out at $129 a month. What I'm going to show you today in our series of videos, our second, third, and fourth video, is really a system that's designed to get your stream online at no additional cost if you don't choose to do so. Now, I am going to be talking about, especially under microphones and video inputs, some options that you can add to make this work a little bit better, but you don't have to do those things. The goal is that your church is online doing your streaming of your services until such time as you choose to go back to normal service times. The first thing that we have to have is a piece of software that runs either on our PC or Mac or in a Linux environment if you're running that kind of takes everything and puts it together so that we can send the stream out to the internet, either to Facebook or YouTube. Later on, I will be talking about multi-streaming to Facebook and YouTube and perhaps your own church website, but that takes a little bit additional software, and there is a cost involved in that, and I'll deal with that a little bit later. The software that you're going to want to obtain and to download is going to be a piece of software called OBS. And OBS really comes in two flavors. And over on this screen, I just want to kind of show you the first one. This is called OBS Studio, and you can get this at obsproject.com/download. There is a version available for Windows, for Mac, and also for Linux computers for those of you that are running Linux desktops or laptops. When you do download the installer, if at all possible, make sure that you get the 64-bit version unless you have a very old PC. And your Mac, of course, if it's been updated to any of the recent Mac OSs, you'll want to make sure that you get the 64-bit version. You'll be much happier with it because it'll utilize all the memory in your system much more efficiently. OBS Studio is a great option. I started out with this a couple weeks ago. I'll talk about why I changed in just a moment. They also have a great quick start guide. And in our next video, when we talk about setting up and installing OBS Studio or setting up and installing the Streamlabs version of OBS, I will show you how to install them and get them set up for a really easy Facebook stream, something that you can do almost right away. The second part, our second tool, is Streamlabs version of OBS. And basically, this is a version of OBS that for the last several years has been wrapped kind of in an external wrapper, and they've been adding some of the plugins and doing some of the more difficult things that you may have to do a lot of reading or researching on the internet with OBS Studio and wrapping it into this OBS Streamlabs package. Now, Streamlabs is really geared towards gamers, and I realize that some will look at it and say, oh, I really don't want that. However, the interface overall is a little bit more smooth. The software on some PCs actually runs a little bit better, lower CPU usage. That was not the case several years ago. It is now. And so I think that really the Streamlabs version is probably the better way to go for the church. You are going to find that when you download this, it's completely free to use. There are a number of things that are already wrapped into it. There are some things, however, that they're going to try to upsell you with. And if you look at this, you'll see that there's a Prime version. Well, you don't need any of these things. You don't need to worry about that. Just simply go with the base package and other than perhaps the need to stream from other PCs into the PC that you're using to send data out to the internet, you really won't need any additional software. It's easy to go. And you'll also basically ignore the elements of the interface that revolve around gaming. They simply won't be useful to you in a church scenario. So it doesn't really matter which one of these you download. Again, you can download the OBS Studio. You can download the Streamlabs at streamlabs.com. Each of them has their own setup for kind of helping you get started. The wiki for OBS Studio, and then the Streamlabs Help Center, which quite frankly, I don't think is actually as helpful as the wiki for OBS. And whichever one of those you choose, you'll be happy either way with those setups. So our second video, we will show you how to download and install both of those. I will be doing that on a Windows PC, but the installation on a Mac is very similar, and I have done a test install on a Linux setup, and it's a little bit more involved. If you need help with that, of course, you can hit me up in the comments, and I'll help you out with that. The second part, after we get past the software, is that we really need a microphone. And I know that a lot of people want to go, well, I got to have a video camera. I've got to focus on that first. Yes, video may indeed be important because you are live streaming this out. However, the biggest problem that most videos have, and as I've been listening to churches and pastors over the past week who are kind of coming online for the first time, is I'm having a great deal of difficulty hearing or distinguishing what it is that they're saying. So a microphone is a big deal. If you have a laptop, or you have a webcam already, you will have a built-in microphone in those systems. That microphone will be adequate as long as you choose not to set the camera up across the room. Big mistake that I see on a lot of the streams. Simply do not do that. Have the camera as close to you as possible, or have the laptop to you as close as possible. And when you do that, then the microphone that's built in either to the laptop or to the streaming cam will probably pick you up and do a fine job. The other thing that you want to be aware of is that if you do have a laptop, particularly the Dell XPS 13 line has this issue, sometimes the camera is in an unflattering position. And when you record some video on it or live stream, people are basically looking right up your nose. And I don't know about you, but I really don't want my church members looking up my nose while I'm preaching. I feel as if that's going to be one of those distractions that's just a little too much and is appropriate for that. So you may need to adjust the elevation of the laptop or the camera so that you have a more straight on or perhaps even downward looking view. The next kind of camera is really the webcam, and these are a dime a dozen. However, what I find is that if pastors have ever done any kind of video conferencing at all, they probably have one of these lying around either at the church or one of their members has one of these lying around, or you may have one stuck in a drawer. And I found that I had two of these stuck in a drawer over the years. Webcams are all over the place as far as quality, but anything that has been produced really in the last 5 to 7 years is adequate because even going back 5 years, we have webcams that were 1080p. Most of us are probably not even going to be broadcasting at that level. We're going to broadcast at 720p, all right? If you don't know what that means, that's okay. We'll deal with some of those things a little bit later. Some other options that you have for microphones are these. You can go out to the store and pick up a USB microphone. Plugs into the USB port on your Mac or on your PC. You may have a little more issue with this on a Linux device, so be careful there. And basically it becomes a microphone input that is recognized separately from any other audio input that your system already has. And in the software, you'll be able to choose and set that up and get that going. However, one of the problems that we have with USB microphones is that if you do want to continue doing any kind of live streaming or recording, the USB microphones can give you issues with certain types of setups later on. So if you do go the route of a USB microphone, probably look in the blue line, find something that's inexpensive, or maybe even just go on Amazon and find a low-end microphone that you can set up on a desk stand or even a microphone stand that you might borrow from the church. The third type of microphone is the XLR microphone, all right? Your traditional microphone that you might find in a church. And really, when you look at some of those things, you're going to find out that if you have the Shure 58 or any of these models at the church, these are excellent microphones for broadcasting. And the only problem with using an XLR microphone is that you have to have some kind of interface between the XLR input and your computer. There are a number of streaming mixers that are available for this. However, they are very pricey. I'll show you one of those a little bit later video. There are a number of individual interfaces. Rode and several other companies make these. Basically a single XLR input that is then changed into a USB 3, all right? Usually not USB 2, so you have to be careful on an older laptop with that. And that plugs into your laptop and then converts the XLR signal into a digital signal that your computer can utilize. If you have the option to use an XLR mic or even a small mixer, sometimes churches will have older, smaller mixers around, you can actually use a mixer, mix several devices, and have a single XLR or quarter-inch jack output into these devices. Even though they only have one interface, you use the mixer in front of it, and that's an excellent option. Couple things also about microphones is that microphones basically come in two different varieties. That is condenser microphones, and condenser microphones are the ones that you have to power. They'll have a battery in them, or in a church you'll see that they have a 48-volt feed going to those. Condenser microphones are great when you're trying to pick up a group, but if you're trying to only pick up your own voice, be careful, because a condenser microphone will pick up your cat yawning across the house and it'll go into your video feed. Or like I have a fish tank behind me, and if the fish jump or splash, it becomes very notable. So in many cases, it's better to use a dynamic microphone, which basically you have to be somewhat close. And again, I just want to show you one that I use. This is the Pod mic. It's highly recommended. However, it's not inexpensive. It costs about $100. I use this for some of the things I do in my secular work, so that's not a big issue. But if you do choose these, remember that you're now adding costs to this. So I would hope that if you need to get online for a budget, you can keep this free or as close to free as you possibly can. All right. Third thing is your video input. And streamers are all over the place on this. If you go online to watch a church that has streamed online or even done live television video, you're going to see that they have a very, very professional setup. However, what comes with that is significant cost, usually in the magnitude of tens of thousands of dollars. I was looking at a church that's here local in Northern Virginia, and their entire audiovisual setup is more than 3 years' budget at charity. So again, those are simply not options. But again, many laptops have a built-in webcam, or you may have an older webcam that's lying around that you can use. I do recommend the Logitech. I'm not saying that they're the best webcams on the market. Certainly Microsoft and some others, Razer, who's a gaming platform, makes some good webcams. But Logitechs are easily available, and a lot of times your kids may have one, your college students may have one, you may have one tucked in a drawer, and these things now have a new life, and they work very well. Almost any external USB webcam will work better than the webcam in your laptop, and that has a lot to do with the size of the components and the focal points of the lenses and other things. Some really good webcams are the Logitech 902, 10 or 11-year-old Logitech. I have one of these. Puts out great 720p. The Logitech C922. Costs about $70 if you can find it right now. A lot of places are sold out because folks are working from home and doing video conferencing. But you know, you may already have a 922, particularly if you were doing Skype with missionaries or other things. A decent lower end Logitech in the $39 range or so is the Logitech C310. The Logitech 920S is a pro quality camera. That is what Logitech calls it anyway. The Logitech Brio is a 4K, all right, and so it has phenomenal color saturation. That's not necessarily what you need unless you're going to be looking at a little bit larger group and really doing backgrounds and things that you need to have excellent color with. So again, the Logitech StreamCam is another one, which is what I'm using right here. Great little 1080p camera. You can also use a video camera. Now, I want to just show you a camera that my son bought off of Amazon. And this particular camera is a 4K video camera by the name of Zohulu. And I think when he bought it, it was in like the $259 range. But it does phenomenal 4K video. And with some extra tools, you can actually live stream with it if you choose to do it that way. You can also look up an Amcrest or a Logitech PTZ camera if you want to use these perhaps to live stream when you get back to the normal services. Amazon, the Saluo, Sauleoo 4K is $135. So there are other options for much higher end cameras that could then be turned into cameras that you would utilize later on to record your main services if you choose to do that. Many folks also have a DSLR, all right, such as the Canon EOS Rebel T7 or the 4000 series. These are capable of live video. However, with the video camera and with the DSLR, there is one problem that you have to be careful of, and that is those cameras require you to have a video capture device, whether that's a card in a desktop computer or a small box that you would get off of Amazon. And most of those devices that will do 1080p, which is what you're going to be trying to kind of focus on, are going to end up costing you between $50 and $100 if you go to a video card in your computer. A 4K card in particular, you're probably talking about $200 to $300. So again, the video camera, the DSLR are options if you have them around, but again, there's a cost that is incurred with those devices. So the three things you need: you must have software. OBS is probably the best choice, whether you use the OBS Studio or the Streamlabs OBS. You need a microphone. The one built into a webcam or to your laptop is probably going to be just fine. Another option that I didn't even think about there is if you have a headset that has a microphone, like a gaming headset. Those work great as well. That would be a USB input microphone, but you'll be on stream with the headphones on your head if you don't mind that. And then the video input. Again, probably the best and most inexpensive way is a laptop with a built-in webcam, or if you have an older USB webcam that's lying around. So we'll wrap this one up, and when we come back to our next video, we're going to start to talk about installing OBS and getting a Facebook stream set up and ready to go. Hope that this helps you out. God bless, and take care today.